How hard is it to win a personal injury lawsuit? One of the first questions injured people ask, often before they even know the full extent of their injuries, is how hard is it to win a personal injury lawsuit? The question makes sense. Most people have never been involved in a lawsuit before. What they know about personal injury law often comes from television and advertisements, online, and anecdotes, conversations with friends and family, that type of thing. Those sources tend to paint wildly different pictures, some suggesting that winning is easy and automatic, others warning that insurance companies never pay and lawsuits are hopeless. After more than 30 years practicing personal injury law in California, the reality lies somewhere in between, but it is far more predictable than most people realize. Winning a personal injury case is rarely about luck. It's about fundamentals. When those fundamentals are present and the case is handled correctly, most legitimate claims result in successful outcomes. So this video is going to explain what winning actually means, why some cases succeed while other cases fail, and what truly determines how difficult a personal injury lawsuit will be. So what does it mean to win a personal injury case? In my opinion, at our firm, a personal injury case is not a success simply because it settles or results in a verdict. We define a win based upon the client's real-world outcomes. Specifically, a case is successful when the client receives appropriate, high-quality medical treatment for their injuries. All that medical treatment is paid for from the proceeds of the case, and the client receives a meaningful net recovery after attorney's fees and litigation costs. This definition matters because personal injury cases are often discussed in terms of gross settlement numbers. A 6 or 7 figure settlement may sound impressive, but it does not tell the full story. If medical bills consume most of the recovery, or if the client is left without necessary treatment, the outcome may not truly deserve or truly serve the injured person. A successful case should improve the client's position medically, financially, and practically, compared to where they would have been without pursuing the claim. Next question, how often do legitimate personal injury cases result in a win? When a case is legitimate and handled by an experienced personal injury attorney, it should result in a favorable outcome, in my opinion, about 95% of the time. That figure often surprises people, especially, who assume that personal injury claims are routinely denied or dismissed. In reality, most cases that fail do so for identifiable reasons, not because the system is inherently, stacked against the injured individual. The key qualifiers are legitimacy and competent representation. When those are present, personal injury law functions as intended, and in the vast majority of cases, it results in a positive outcome. So injury alone is not enough. One of the most difficult concepts for injured individuals to understand is that being hurt doesn't automatically create a valid personal injury case. A person can suffer very real pain, disability, and financial loss and still lack a viable claim under the law. For a personal injury lawsuit to succeed, you need several elements that have to be present. One, clear liability. There must be a legally responsible third party whose negligence and wrongful conduct caused the injury. If liability is unclear, disputed, or non-existent, the case becomes extremely difficult regardless of the severity of the injury. The second thing you need is causation. The injury must be causally related to the incident. Insurance companies frequently argue that symptoms are pre-existing, unrelated, or exaggerated. Medical documentation and consistency are critical. The third thing, you have to have damages. There must be measurable damages. Medical expenses, lost income, pain and suffering that justify pursuing a claim. Fourth thing, which is a biggie, is adequate insurance coverage. Perhaps the most overlooked factor, I think, is insurance. Even when liability is clear and injuries are serious, a case may not result in a meaningful recovery if there is insufficient insurance coverage to pay the damages. Personal injury cases are not pursued against people in the abstract. They are pursued against insurance policies. And without adequate coverage, even strong cases may be limited in value. So why otherwise legitimate cases fail? In our experience, the most common reason personal injury cases fail or fail to reach their full potential is client behavior during the course of the case. Even strong cases can be undermined by decisions made after the accident. Common issues include failure to follow medical advice, gaps in treatment, disregarding legal guidance, not listening to your lawyer, in other words, acting inconsistently with claimed injuries, and other things that can affect the value of the case. Personal injury cases are dynamic. They evolve over time, and each decision made by the client can strengthen or weaken the claim. So successful outcomes require coordination between attorney, client, and medical providers. So what is the role of medical treatment in winning a case? Medical treatment is central to every personal injury claim. It serves two purposes. One, it helps the client recover physically, and documenting the nature and extent of the injuries is the second reason why you have to have good medical treatment and doctors that clearly put everything that needs to be put in the medical records. So from a legal standpoint, prompt and consistent medical care is essential. Delays in treatment or unexplained gaps, allow insurance companies to basically argue that the injuries were minor, they're unrelated, or that they're resolved. Following medical advice is equally important. When a treating physician recommends further evaluation, therapy, or surgery, declining treatment without a clear medical reason can significantly reduce the case value. That does not mean clients should undergo procedures they do not need. It does mean that medical decisions should be informed, well documented, and consistent with professional recommendations. So, that's one of the key things. I can think of real life examples. I had a client recently where the doctor recommended surgery. It was a commercial vehicle versus automobile crash. The client was, obviously, reluctant to have surgery, and nobody wants to have surgery. But the doctor really stressed to him that the surgery was going to, significantly improve his medical condition. And I explained to him that the surgery would also, significantly increase the value of the case. Ultimately, the client had surgery, and the offer went from low to mid six figures, ultimately to a $2 million settlement. So that just goes to show you that, if you follow medical advice, you can definitely, increase the value of your case. So what's the other factors that kind of come into winning the case? Early investigation and preservation of evidence is a big one. You have to, for example, in slip and fall cases, you need to retain appropriate experts, do testing. In automobile cases, you want to, if there are witnesses and it's disputed liability, you want to send an investigator out and get statements from people. All of those things can definitely improve your chances of winning your case. After, over decades of practice, I see certain mistakes that are repeated, and they include delaying medical treatment, waiting too long to seek care, which creates gaps in the record and raises questions about your injury severity. Unexplained breaks in care allow insurance companies to basically argue that you're recovered, or that you're not really injured. So the other thing that can affect your case is, early statements made to, the driver at the scene regarding liability, or speaking to insurance adjusters early. Statements made without legal guidance are often used against the claimant later. Another biggie that I see lately is social media activity. If you've got posts showing you're engaging in physical activity or travel that contradict your injury claims, even if they're taken out of context, they're going to be used against you later. So you need to be careful with that, and that can definitely affect your ability to win your personal injury case. Another big mistake is just settling too early. Impatience can lead to clients accepting settlements before the full extent of your injuries and damages are known. So those types of mistakes can significantly reduce a case value or eliminate recovery altogether. So the importance of hiring the right attorney, this is key in winning any personal injury case. Experience matters when it comes to personal injury cases. So experienced personal injury lawyers can, one, properly evaluate liability and damages, two, identify all the insurance coverages that might apply to the claim, three, they can coordinate appropriate medical care for you, four, they can anticipate and counter all the insurance defense arguments because they've heard them a million times, and five, they can advise clients on decisions that affect their long-term outcomes. So, not all personal injury lawyers approach cases the same way. Case selection, preparation, and the willingness to fully develop claims make, a big difference. So what's the conclusion? How hard is it to win a personal injury lawsuit? Well, after 30 years of practicing personal injury law in California, the answer is clear. If you have a legitimate injury, you've got clear liability, you've got adequate insurance coverage, and you hire the right attorney, there's no reason your case should not result in a successful outcome. So personal injury cases are not about shortcuts or guarantees. They're about fundamentals, preparation, and informed decision-making. So when those elements are present, the system works far more often than people expect. So if you'd like the next steps and you have a personal injury claim you'd like us to take a look at and see if we can help you with, just give us a call at 866-966-5240 or visit us on the web at victimslawyer.com. We've got a lot of great information over there.